The title of today's presentation, as you can see here, is DC Employment Outlook Survey, Rising Wages and Increased Competition. My name is John Shreve with Lucas Systems. And me today to present is Krishna Venkatasammy. He is CTO of Lucas Systems. So first, a little background on this webinar and the survey that we're talking about. We recently commissioned an independent survey of DC managers and other executives about key labor issues facing U.S. distribution centers. In the part of the presentation, I'm going to run through some of the key findings from that survey, and then Krishna is going to look at how DCs are responding to the challenges. To the survey, DCs are increasing. It's getting harder to hire hourly employees. And DCs are taking multiple approaches to respond to these challenges. They're seeking software solutions combined with process improvement initiatives, also investing in automation solutions to help them reduce their needs for labor today and in the future. Let me give you some of the survey highlights. The research itself was conducted by Agile Business Media, which is the publisher of DC Velocity and Supply Chain Coordinator magazine. They did a combined survey in August and September of about 100 DC managers and executives about their labor, hiring, and wage trends in their distribution centers. The editors of Supply Chain Quarterly compiled the data and wrote a pretty interesting white paper detailing the results of the survey. And I'm going to be sending everyone who's here today a copy of the survey report that later this afternoon. We're going to go a little bit deeper into the survey results and the statistics that we learned from that survey beyond what you'll learn in the white paper. In the respondents to the survey, they're pretty evenly divided among four general industries or industry segments: retailers, manufacturers, B2B distributors, and 3PLs. And you can see from this slide, almost half of all the respondents had a DC with more than 100 employees. As a survey, we asked, what channels are DC serving? And you can see from this slide, most of the respondents are shipping to retail stores, but 46% are shipping directly to consumers. About a third of all the respondents said that they are shipping directly to consumers and also shipping directly to retail stores, which illustrates the multi-channel trend that we're seeing pretty widely within the market. In terms of the staffing trends, as you see on this slide, 60% of all respondents said that they have added headcount over the last year. Almost half said they're planning to hire more seasonal workers this year than last. Among the DCs that they have increased headcount over the last year, the average addition was 12%, which is a pretty big addition in terms of staffing. So what we've seen in these, I think I may have skipped the slide there. Right. So when we respondents, what's driving their increase in hourly employees? Why they've needed to add headcount? Surprisingly, almost 90% said that they are responding to business growth and just a strong economy. But about a third also responded that they are seeing a rise in e-commerce orders and also a change in their business, which is reflected in increased order velocity, more same-day or next-day shipments. So at this point, I think it's worth stepping back from the survey a second. I'd like to have Krishna talk a little bit about how the e-commerce and multi-channel trends are labor needs in the DC.
So as the survey said here, what we're finding with our customers and the market in general is that the diversity of the orders that the distribution centers have to deal with have increased. In other words, distribution centers that were designed and built to apply to stores are now being asked to also fulfill orders for their own e-commerce channels or for fulfillments through other channels like an Amazon fulfillment. So what that's doing to these distribution centers is since they're not designed to cope with that diversity, they're challenged, right? And they're also challenged to deal with smaller orders that have less quantities. Again, if you have designed a DC to fulfill a store order, you probably have built a DC that can handle large orders, perhaps fills either a full truck or a partial truck. But they now are grappling with the challenges of smaller orders with fewer quantities, coupled with the fact that the ebb and flow of these orders throughout the day changes. So the operations now have to deal with multiple shipment times, cutoff times for shipment through parcels. So different challenges, but then the options have to adapt is what we're finding to these changing and demanding environments. Big piece is this kind of challenge is not just for distribution centers that are dealing with consumer-only orders. We're seeing that this trend is also crossed over into the business-to-business sector. So distribution centers that were shipping to businesses, may it be industrial supplies or hotel supplies, now are also being pressured to react to e-commerce orders. So we're seeing this across the board. So what we're seeing is with these diversities and demanding needs, the operations today are filling those needs by increasing the labor pool, right? So they're going out to find labor, either temporary or increasing the size of their labor to go fill that need through perhaps some poor processes. And I'll let John talk a little bit about the process challenges that these distribution centers are facing.
Thanks, Krishna. So what we've, Chris just explained some of the reasons why changes in business is spurring DCs to increase their headcount, increase hiring, but there are also other things going on, obviously. Interestingly, I think it was 90% of the respondents to the survey said that it's gotten harder for them to hire full-time employees compared to last year. So the market is it's harder to hire people, harder to find people. Chart on the left-hand side, and asking people, do they believe it's gotten more difficult? In general, this is just a picture of plain supply and demand. There aren't enough workers, experienced workers, if you're looking for people who worked in a DC before. But more importantly, there's competition from other DCs, competition from non-DC businesses as well. And I think it's pretty interesting that almost 4 out of 10 people who responded to the survey cited competition with a new Amazon DC as one of the reasons why they're having a harder time filling their employee needs. On the right-hand side, we wanted to take a look at how much have wages increased. As you may be aware, I think the government statistics are that hourly wages have increased by about 2.3% over the last year. If you look at this chart, it appears that DC wages are increasing, far faster than that in a lot of places, in a lot of DCs. The right two bars on the chart, combining them together, that represents 46% of the people who responded to the survey increased their wages more than 5%. And that bar on the far right, almost 18% of the respondents said that they have increased wages just in the last year by 10%. And that's a pretty significant wage growth compared to the slow overall wage growth in the U.S. economy as a whole. Finally, we wanted to find out through the survey what are some of the ways that DCs are responding to the challenges. How are they filling their employee gaps and growing gaps in their numbers of employees? For one thing, they're using different strategies to get more employees. They're using temps and they're hiring more part-time workers. But the number one response that we received was that they're actually investing in technologies or other ways to improve the productivity of employees in their DCs. And our next chart takes a closer look at what specific technologies and initiatives they have underway to improve labor productivity. I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone that the number one response, more than 80% of the people said that they're in process improvement or lean process improvement initiatives to just improve the processes, make them more efficient and more streamlined. But at the far right side, the number one technology investment that people are looking at are software or other IT systems investments. That the second bar from the right shows that less than 40% are investing in material handling systems or automation systems. And when you look more closely at this, those automation investments are more heavily skewed towards larger DCs. So we teased out the numbers a little bit. Among the respondents who have 100 or more employees in their DC, 50% of those people said that they're investing in material handling systems and automation within their DCs. And that compares to only 20% of the DCs with 50 or fewer employees. What's striking to me about this slide is that DCs are investing in multiple strategies to address the challenge. They're looking at process improvement. They're looking at reconfiguring their existing warehouse in some cases, and they're looking at technology solutions like software, like material handling systems, automation. It could be everything from conveyors, sorters, carolels, print and apply machines, wrapping automation. But again, twice as many people that are looking at those types of solutions are looking at software solutions. So now I think we're now going to ask Krishna to talk a little bit about those technology investment trends and how they address the labor challenges.
Yeah, like John said and the survey cited, large DCs are investing more heavily in automation, maybe material handling or robotics, as robotics are becoming more viable in, say, each pick environments. There are many DCs that are looking at robotics. There are a number of DCs that are looking at supplementary robotics, like a movable cart or a suction-based robot for each picking, right? So there are larger DCs that are investing in those kind of technologies. At the same time, they're also adding headcount. That is the interesting here. So the automation is only a part of the answer, but they're still adding labor to address this diversity in order profiles that we talked about earlier. Now, coupled with that, existing operations that have been built and designed to either service one channel or a type of order. Now, those operations have to improvise and improve their processes to meet these changing demands. So those operations are trying to do that with minimal physical changes to their layout. As you all know, the changes to layout are very disruptive and expensive. And given the dynamic nature of the market, it's very hard to achieve a 100% improvement that can last 3 or 5 years by changing the physical layout of your DCs to address these needs. So most operations are trying not to make dramatic changes to their physical operations and also not make significant changes to their mission-critical systems. So most DCs are operating on a warehouse management system or an inventory control system that's crucial, critical to your operation, and making changes to those systems to adapt to these needs can be expensive, and two, can be disruptive in many cases if you don't get that right. So what they're doing is they're looking at supplementary software that can sit on top of warehouse management systems that are better suited to address the needs of these changing demands on these options. So that's what we're observing through these surveys and talking to our customers in the market. You may ask, so what is this warehouse execution software, right? So what warehouse execution systems are designed to build and built for, or to tools like intelligent batching of orders. So as your order profile and diversity of order profile increases, you want tools to make the batching of orders, how you pick those orders, more efficient, right? And by making them more efficient, by intelligent batching, and also by making the pick path or the path of the person who's going and filling those orders more efficient, your labor needs go down, right? So you make the person fill more orders by having them walk less through tools like dynamic work optimization that Lucas has released in the last 18 months or so. So those kind of capabilities are built into these warehouse execution systems. These systems are more modern than your traditional warehouse management systems. So they've been designed and built to take advantage of a modern operating system like an Android OS. So most of these systems have been designed in the past few years by taking advantage of the capabilities of a mobile device running on Android operating system. What we're finding is that these systems that are running on mobile operating or Android operating system running on a mobile device rather than a traditional RF gun are easy for a person coming into your operation, may it be a temporary labor or a part-time labor, to learn the system and use it quickly. And the systems are designed so to capture the data or to give out the data of what to pick, where to go, and what orders to fill is through the right mode of providing that information, whether it's using the screen on the device more effectively, or each input or each output, may it be scanning, or other modalities of input and output. So these the execution systems are designed to take advantage of those capabilities. Now, what this does is this not only makes it easy for that labor to learn the systems, but it also brings in younger workforce into your operations. It attracts a talent pool that perhaps is harder for you to attract. We're also seeing that these systems have newer concepts like gamification. As millennials come into the labor pool, they want the ability to, or they want to feel good about achieving results. So some concepts, leaderboards, gamifications are built into these warehouse execution systems. And that helps you attract that labor that's tight and actually keep them, retain them, right? So we think these kind of concepts, the execution systems truly attract the labor that you need and also retain them for an extended period of time.
So it's interesting you mentioned that. I was visiting one of our customers in Ohio, and they're a retailer, e-commerce retailer, and they're looking at tripling their headcount over the next, they've already started, to hit the heavy holiday season. And one of the people I was speaking to mentioned just that point, that, the ability to use this type of system, it's helping them get their people on board that much faster. But he mentioned that's making the work easier. For example, if the work is seen as cumbersome, people must, just, well, I think I'm going to quit and go somewhere else because they have lots of options.
Right.
In the labor market today.
Yep.
So now we're going to do our Q&A. And like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to submit it by the Q&A box We did get a couple of questions in already, and we will address those questions, and please feel free to submit any that you have. Also, before we get to the Q&A, a quick commercial. Today's webinar is part of an ongoing series of Perfect Order webinars that Lucas has been presenting over the past year, and we're expecting to announce our next webinar for early January. So watch your email for that. So our first question, no surprise, is relating to WMS systems, Krishna. So this is, okay, so when we have a Tier 1 WMS, it's highly customized, and so with a work execution system to improve our processes in that situation.
Yes, so again, whether it's a Tier 1 WMS or a homegrown WMS, it really doesn't matter. There are tech integration or interfacing technologies built into these Tier 1 WMSs that can exchange data with a warehouse execution system. So you can take advantage of some of the concepts I talked about, working in conjunction with your Tier 1 WMS. Okay.
All right. And we have a similar question, WMS related. So this is a voice-directed system that is driven directly by their WMS, and they're struggling to change WMS workflows. So the specific question is, could it use a execution system but keep the same voice applications?
Yeah, what we've seen again is some of the voice systems that have been put in place, say 5, 7, 10 years ago, on top of a homegrown WMS or a Tier 1 WMS. It's like a hammer looking for a nail, right? So it's the voice application on top of an existing process. Now, unfortunately, what I just described is not that. That is, the execution systems are designed and built to take advantage of seamless process through enablement, right? That is to make it easy for operations to adapt to these demanding needs. That's what these execution systems do. So, unfortunately, those existing voice applications may not be suited to be used in this environment. So, going back and making changes into your WMS makes, like I said earlier, it's expensive and it could be disruptive to your operation. So, I would urge to look at ways to integrate your warehouse execution systems to these WMS systems, get data that the execution systems need, and let the execution system do all the processes that you would want.
All right, Krishna. Well, we don't have any other questions, so just quickly, a quick reminder to watch your inbox for a copy of the research report, which is titled DC's Work Smarter to Address Labor Challenges. That is more information about the survey that was conducted by, again, DC Velocity and CFCMP's Supply Chain Quarterly, as well as a link to the replay of this presentation. So thank you, Krishna, for joining me, and thank you, everyone, for logging on today, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.